The galaxy had forgotten them. 1,000 years had passed since the word human meant anything more than a faded name in old dusty data archives. Most species believed they had gone extinct after their final war, a brutal, unmatched battle with the Zorvan Empire. The Zorvans, proud and ruthless, had called it a necessary cleansing. Earth, once blue and alive, had been bombarded from orbit, left silent and broken. Over the centuries, nature tried to take back the planet, but the damage was too deep. Earth became a symbol of failure, a lesson written in ash, and eventually a myth. Young alien scholars debated if humans had even existed. Their few remaining records described them as strange creatures with limited lifespans, fierce emotions, and a habit of fighting against impossible odds. But no one truly believed the stories anymore. No one. Until the signal came. It was weak, hidden beneath layers of interference, coming from the dead planet itself. A low hum of energy, steady and unnatural, pulsed from somewhere deep beneath Earth's surface. At first, it was ignored. A ghost signal from a ruined world wasn't worth the attention of empires. But when a second pulse came, stronger and clearer, the Galactic Science Council took notice. They sent a small team of explorers, a mixed crew of aliens curious enough to land on Earth and see if there was anything left. The mission was supposed to be simple: scan the planet, collect data, and return. But once they landed, all contact was lost. No distress signals, no emergency beacons, nothing. The ship vanished like a stone dropped into deep, dark water. That silence was louder than any scream. Panic didn't spread at first, only whispers. Stories began to circulate on dark networks and private channels. Some believed it was a natural phenomenon. Others were sure it was a trap. And a few, just a few, claimed it could mean something far more dangerous. That humanity had returned. Deep beneath the cracked surface of Earth, in the ruins of a forgotten city, ancient machines began to wake. They had waited in silence for centuries, buried under dust, hidden behind crumbling walls and layers of rock. The facility was massive, a lost relic from the final days of the human race. It was called Project Revival. Created in secret by Earth's last scientists before the end came, it was humanity's final gamble against extinction. Artificial minds watched over genetic banks, frozen embryos, cloned cells, and digital libraries of human thought. For generations, they had waited for the right signal, the right time, the right reason to begin again. And now, the signal had come. One by one, the machines moved. Mechanical arms reached into frozen chambers. DNA strands were reactivated. Clumping pods hissed with life. Within hours, the facility began to hum with activity. Lights flickered on in corridors untouched by time. Screens glowed with information. And in the central chamber, the first human in 1,000 years opened his eyes. His name, printed on the chamber side, was Commander Eric's. His body was new, but his mind held memories from the past. War, loss, strategy, and survival. He didn't scream or panic. He stood up slowly, looked at the blinking lights around him, and said just one word: status. The machines responded immediately. The revival process was underway. More humans would follow: engineers, scientists, tacticians, and leaders, all designed and trained to rebuild a world that had forgotten them. These were not normal humans. They were enhanced, crafted for strength and speed, mentally sharp and emotionally balanced. They were born from the failures of the past, carrying the hopes of a lost species, and they remembered everything. Outside, the surface of Earth remained quiet. The ruins still looked lifeless, but under the soil, a storm was forming. Ancient satellites in orbit flickered back to life. Defense grids scanned the skies, and the revived humans began unlocking the old knowledge hidden in their ruined world. Technologies far ahead of what the current galaxy understood. They didn't rush. They watched. They studied. They waited. They knew the galaxy would come eventually. And when it did, they would be ready. In another part of space, a Zorvan scout ship picked up the same signal the science team had traced. Curious and cautious, the captain ordered a full scan. What they saw was impossible. Energy readings from Earth that didn't match any current model. Strange power sources were active, and something on the planet was blocking deeper scans. The Zorvans didn't believe in myths, but they did believe in control. And Earth was supposed to be dead. They sent a message to their empire, then turned their ship toward the planet. But they never arrived. The scout ship disappeared before entering orbit. No explosion, no trace, just silence. Now, fear truly began to spread. The galaxy remembered the stories of humans who refused to surrender, of battles where they fought with unmatched fury, even when they were outnumbered and outgunned, of a species that could not be predicted or controlled. The silence from Earth wasn't just silence anymore. It was a warning. Something had awakened, and it was watching. In the facility's command center, Commander Eric stood before a large display, watching distant signals from space. He didn't speak much. His team worked without noise, reviving others, organizing data, restoring systems. In his mind, he could see the future forming like a puzzle. The galaxy thought they were gone. But they were here, alive, stronger, and smarter than ever before. This time, they would not be hunted. They would not beg for peace. They would stand. Humanity had not died. They had prepared. And now, the stars would remember the name they tried so hard to erase. Deep beneath the dead soil of Earth, in a place where time had once stopped, everything had now begun to move. Cold metal walls that hadn't seen light in centuries flickered with life. Thousands of revival chambers lined the underground halls, each one holding a carefully preserved human. Scientists, strategists, engineers, soldiers, all once considered lost forever. As the ancient AI systems hummed back to full operation, they moved with quiet precision, reviving the next group of humans according to protocols created during Earth's last desperate days. Commander Eric stood tall in the command chamber, watching as more of his people emerged from their sleep, their eyes wide with shock, confusion, and then sharp awareness. They were not just waking up to a ruined world. They were awakening to a galaxy that had buried them, a universe that had written them off as extinct, and a mission that had waited 1,000 years to be fulfilled. There was no time to mourn. There was only the mission. As the days passed inside the hidden base, the humans rebuilt their network, reconnected long-dead systems, and unearthed secret projects sealed away by those who had seen the end coming. The facility, once called Eden Core, had been designed to be invisible to outside sensors, powered by underground fusion reactors, protected by defense grids, and armed with knowledge centuries ahead of the galaxy's current level. The more they activated, the more they realized how far the rest of the universe had fallen behind. Earth had not just hidden itself, it had prepared for vengeance. The outside world remained unaware of how fast humanity was rising. In orbit, forgotten satellites came online again, cloaked and silent, watching every movement beyond the planet. One of them picked up a fleet entering the solar system, a Zorvan patrol group sent to investigate the missing scout ship. Eric stood in front of the holographic screen, reading the data calmly. He remembered the Zorvans well, how their betrayal had started the war, how they had promised peace then unleashed destruction, and how they had left Earth to burn. Now they were back. But this time, they wouldn't find a broken planet. They would find something waiting. In the deep strategy chamber, a group of revived tacticians gathered. They analyzed the Zorvan fleet's formation, their known weaknesses, and the outdated technology they still relied on. Earth's engineers, already years ahead during the time of destruction, had now upgraded their tools with precision. New weapons, drone swarms, and stealth systems were deployed across the planet, silently preparing for a test. And when the Zorvans sent a probe into Earth's upper atmosphere, it vanished without a trace. No warning, no explosion, just gone. The Zorvan commander hesitated. Reports showed strange energy readings below the clouds, and something was blocking deeper scans. He ordered caution, unaware that his hesitation was being watched. Back in Eden Core, Eric's approved the next step, the Awakening Protocol. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about reclaiming humanity's place in the galaxy. The second wave of humans began to wake. Among them were linguists, historians, and cultural analysts, because they needed more than weapons to rise again. They needed understanding. They needed to know who still ruled the stars and who had played a role in their fall. Every name would be remembered, every lie uncovered. Hidden archives, still intact beneath old cities like New York, Tokyo, and Cairo, were accessed remotely. Across the planet, drones uncovered lost satellites, pulled data from frozen computers, and restored blueprints of powerful ships built in the last days of Earth's resistance. These ships were never launched. Now they would be. Meanwhile, deep space monitoring picked up whispers from other systems. The Zorvans had started broadcasting messages of caution. They warned other empires to avoid Earth, to leave the dead planet alone. But it was too late. The mystery was too strong, and curiosity had already spread. Smaller races, long oppressed by the major empires, began sending secret scouts to check the truth for themselves. One of them, a small reptilian pilot named Vec, slipped through the outer system, cloaked in silence. What he saw from orbit made his blood run cold. Earth was no longer silent. Heat signatures, hidden cities, cloaked ships, all invisible to most scans, showed themselves to Vec's advanced probe. He recorded what he saw and escaped before detection. His report would travel fast. It would not just reach the powerful. It would reach the desperate. The galaxy didn't know yet what Earth was becoming, but the ones who feared the empires the most were already hoping that the legends of human strength and madness were true. Inside Eden Core, the humans continued their awakening. Some sat silently, staring at old pictures of Earth before the fall, watching ancient videos, listening to songs from centuries ago. Others trained in holographic combat, tested their bodies, and sharpened their minds. They had been created with purpose, rebuilt to carry the fire of a species that refused to die. They were not vengeful monsters, but they would not forget. Commander Eric's knew the first real test would come soon, a battle that would decide whether humanity still had the strength to fight. The Zorvan fleet in orbit had begun to move again. They sent another message, this time demanding identification and access. They still believed Earth was theirs to control. Eric smiled bitterly. He gave no reply. Instead, he activated Sentinel Protocol 1, a system that launched a high-orbit EMP blast, disabling the Zorvan ship's scanning and targeting systems for exactly 4 minutes. In that small window, 3 human stealth ships rose from hidden bays on Earth's surface. Silent as shadows, they moved toward the fleet. Each ship carried no living crew, just artificial pilots and one mission: to deliver a warning. Within seconds, the Zorvan fleet lost one of its ships. A precise strike disabled its core systems, sending it drifting. The second ship received a message from the humans: "We remember everything." Panic spread across the remaining Zorvan vessels. Before they could react, the human ships vanished, returning to the planet. No damage to Earth, no further attacks. Just a statement, a signal, a beginning. The galaxy would now have to choose: fear the return of the forgotten species, or face the consequences of ignoring them again. And deep within Eden Core, as more and more humans awakened, a silent oath passed between them all. This time, they would not kneel. This time, they would lead. And the stars would learn once more why humanity was never meant to be forgotten. When the alien ship entered the solar system, it came without warning and without weapons drawn. It was old, covered in scars from battles long past, and moved slowly as if unsure of what it would find. Its purpose was not invasion, but discovery. The pilot, a lone scholar from the peaceful fairy species, had spent his life chasing the legends of humanity, the species believed to have vanished 1,000 years ago after the Great War of Extinction. Most thought humans were gone forever. Their world turned to ash. Their cities crumbled into dust. But stories refused to die. Stories of unmatched courage, unpredictable rage, and impossible survival. Now, as the Theory ship moved past the outer planets, the pilot's heart raced. The scans were unclear, clouded by interference, yet something pulsed from Earth, a signal, weak and fragmented, repeating a sequence of prime numbers followed by a single line in human tongue. "We are still here." The Theory scholar, named Keelan, stared at the message in silence. He hadn't expected it to be true. The legend said humans were ghosts, that their fire had been extinguished. And yet, something was alive down there. He sent a simple transmission in return, offering peace and curiosity, not dominance. There was no response. Instead, Earth remained quiet. But just before Keelan considered retreat, a human satellite uncloaked itself in orbit. It did not fire. It simply watched. And Keelan, understanding the meaning, lowered his ship shields and turned off all weapon systems. Minutes later, a new transmission reached him, direct, powerful, and unmistakably human. It said, "Land. Alone." The words chilled him, but he obeyed. The landing site was strange, an open plain near a forest, untouched by modern construction. It looked too perfect, as if prepared for him. As his ship settled, Keelan stepped out into the cold air, breathing in the sharp scent of Earth's atmosphere. It was quiet, and then from the trees they came. Humans, dozens of them, dressed in dark armor, silent, observing him with unreadable eyes. One stepped forward, a woman with short black hair and a scar running down her face. She introduced herself simply as Commander Wren. Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of a people who had lost everything and rebuilt in the shadows. She asked Keelan why he had come. He answered with honesty. He came not for conquest, but for understanding. He spoke of how the galaxy had changed, how empires rose and fell, and how the stories of humanity still shaped fear and respect among every species. He offered his knowledge, his resources, and even his life if it meant helping build a bridge between what once was and what could be. Wren studied him in silence, then motioned for him to follow. They led him through a forest into a hidden facility, where ancient technology hummed quietly, far beyond anything the rest of the galaxy had achieved. There, Keelan saw the truth. Humanity had not just survived. It had evolved, rebuilt, waited. They had watched the stars, learned the new languages, understood the new enemies. They had made no move because they had no reason. Until now. Wren explained how Earth had once trusted others, how that trust had been broken, how betrayal had brought fire to their skies. But she also said this: "We are not monsters. We don't want revenge. We want a future, but not a future of silence or slavery, a future of strength, of respect." Keelan nodded, understanding that this was not just about him. His presence had triggered something bigger, a test, a second chance, for both of them. That night, he was allowed to speak with a human council. Leaders awakened from deep cryo-sleep, strategists from the final days of the war. They questioned him with sharp minds and sharper memories. They asked what the galaxy had become, who ruled now, who remembered them, and who forgot. Keelan answered carefully, truthfully. He spoke of rising powers like the Varn Dominion, who controlled trade and enslaved smaller species. He described the cruelty of the Quarry Lords, who erased cultures in the name of unity. He told them that no one truly believed humanity was alive, because the galaxy feared what it could mean. The council listened. Then they showed him something that made his breath stop. A new ship, sleek, black, humming with energy. Not a weapon of war, but a vessel of re-entry. It had one purpose: to carry a message to the stars. And they wanted him to be the messenger. not just to prove humanity lived, but to offer the galaxy a choice. Keelan agreed. Days later, the human engineers upgraded his vessel with cloaking systems and hyperspeed engines no other race had achieved. Before he left, Ren gave him a data crystal. Inside were the first human words to be sent to the galaxy in 1,000 years. It said, "We were forgotten, but we remember. We offer peace, but we are ready for war. This is your second chance." As Keelan flew back into space, 1,000 thoughts battled in his mind. He wondered how the galaxy would react. Would they panic? Would they attack? Or would they finally listen? Behind him, Earth disappeared into shadow once more, but it was no longer silent. It had made first contact again, and it had chosen its messenger wisely. What came next would shake the stars. The stars above the battlefield glowed like silent witnesses as the Council of the Galactic Union gathered on the planet Vorlus to observe what would be remembered as the most dangerous challenge ever created, the test of power. No warships, no armies, only one warrior from each species chosen to represent their kind in a contest designed to judge strength, intelligence, endurance, and control. It was not just about muscle, it was about survival, about proving that race's right to lead, to be feared, or to be followed. The humans had remained hidden from the galaxy for over 1,000 years, and when they reappeared, the other species were shaken. Some called it a bluff, others called it madness. But no one expected what came next. The humans didn't come with a fleet. They came with a single person, a man named Elias. He looked ordinary, tall, calm, with sharp eyes and a face that carried no expression of fear. The others laughed at first. The Grax champion was twice his size and could crush metal with bare hands. The Jor female had telekinetic powers and could move objects without touching them. The Varn warrior had skin harder than steel and a brain enhanced by machines. Compared to them, Elias was human, just human, but he didn't speak much. He just stood quietly, observing every move, reading every expression, as if the fight had already begun in his mind. The rules were simple. 1 arena, 5 challenges, last one standing wins. And when the signal flared and the ground shook beneath their feet, the first round began, a brutal maze that shifted constantly, filled with traps, illusions, and robotic predators. Most ran blindly. Elias walked. While others triggered alarms and were hunted by machines, he used sound, light, and patterns to figure out the maze's rhythm. He didn't fight unless he had to. But when he did, it was quick, efficient, and shocking. He used no weapons, only precision. The Grax champion, confident in brute force, broke through wall after wall but missed a hidden pit and fell, eliminated. The crowd gasped. The first to fall was the strongest. Elias never looked back. The second round was a mental trial, complex puzzles with time limits, meant to overwhelm. The Jor used her powers to speed through it, but got confused by a false memory trap. Elias, however, stayed focused. He ignored distractions, trusting logic over emotion. He completed every puzzle faster than expected, not because he was smarter than a machine, but because he knew how to stay calm when the pressure was rising. The third challenge tested physical pain, a brutal simulation that pushed the body to its limits. The Varn warrior, nearly unstoppable, resisted longer than any, but he relied on enhancements. Elias had none. His strength came from pain itself, from a human ability others didn't understand. Adaptation through suffering. His heart rate slowed, his breathing adjusted, and his mind entered a state no one expected. He endured longer than even the machines thought possible. When the round ended, only Elias and the Varn remained. The fourth challenge was combat. No weapons, no rules. One must yield. The arena was silent as the two fighters faced each other. The Varn attacked like a storm, punches like thunder, speed like wind. But Elias dodged, stepped aside, studied him. Every movement taught him something. Every mistake the Varn made became Elias's weapon. When he struck back, it was not with strength, but with knowledge. He hit pressure points, used balance, redirected force. The Varn fell, stunned, confused by how easily the human had read him. But Elias didn't finish him. He helped him stand. The crowd, used to blood, grew silent. This was something new, something different. The final challenge was unexpected, a test of choice. Before Elias stood a console with two buttons. One would destroy the weapons of every other species in the galaxy. The other would erase human technology and keep Earth hidden for another 100 years. It was not a test of power anymore. It was a test of purpose. The council waited. The audience held their breath. Elias stared at both buttons, then turned to face them all. And then he spoke for the first time. Power is not in destruction. It is in restraint. We came not to rule. We came to remind you that peace is a choice, and we still choose it. He pressed neither button. Instead, he walked away. Silence followed him, then whispers, then thunderous applause. The council, stunned, declared him the victor, not because he won, but because he proved that power without control is chaos, and control without purpose is weakness. Humanity, once forgotten, was remembered again, not just as warriors, but as leaders. The test of power ended that day not with a battle, but with a message. The strongest species is the one that doesn't need to prove it. When the news of humanity's unexpected return and their victory in the test of power reached the far corners of the galaxy, it spread like wildfire through every channel, system, and species. No one believed it at first. Some said it was fake. Others thought it was a clever trick by Earth's allies, but the footage was undeniable. Billions watched Elias, the lone human, walk out of the arena, not with weapons, not with threats, but with words that changed everything. His calm, confident presence and his final decision not to destroy or dominate, but to step back, shook the foundations of galactic politics and pride. For 1,000 years, humanity had been missing, presumed extinct, forgotten by most and mocked by the few who remembered. Now, that silence had broken, and the galaxy didn't know how to react. On the cold military world of Karazhan, the Grax generals shouted in rage. Their champion had fallen to a human who never even raised his voice. The Grax believed in strength above all. Their society was built on conquest, and they couldn't accept being outmatched by a species they had long considered primitive. Secret meetings began. Plans for retaliation formed. If the humans were truly back, they had to be controlled or destroyed. But not all species thought like the Grax. On the science-oriented world of Miri, the Zhor scholars were silent. They watched the footage again and again, not looking at the fight, but at the man behind the actions. Elias didn't just win. He predicted, calculated, and remained calm under pressure no being should survive. One of the elder researchers, a Zhor with centuries of study, finally whispered, "We feared their weapons before. Now I fear their minds." Across the stars, in peaceful systems like Elor, where art and harmony were valued more than war, the human message brought hope. The Council of Elor, known for its neutrality, sent a public message to Earth, inviting them to speak at the next Galactic Peace Summit. The invite alone was a shock. No species had ever offered humans such respect. Meanwhile, media across the galaxy erupted with debates. News anchors questioned the old history books. Analysts replayed every second of the contest. Some praised the humans, others warned against trusting them. But no one could ignore them anymore. For the first time in centuries, humans were the center of every conversation. On the black market station orbiting the dead planet Krell, the criminal factions met in secret. Pirates, smugglers, and mercenaries, all those who profited from chaos, were nervous. If the humans were as strong and principled as the stories claimed, then law and order might rise again, stronger than before. Some wanted to ally with Earth for protection. Others plotted to strike first. On Earth itself, hidden behind cloaking fields and illusionary defenses, the human leaders gathered in their underground council chambers. The plan had worked. Elias had done what was asked, represent not just strength, but restraint. The world was not ready for the full power of humanity's return, and the council knew this. Humanity had advanced in silence, grown smarter, stronger, united by the memory of past mistakes. Now, the galaxy reacted not to warships, but to one man's choice. Elias sat alone in a quiet room, watching the chaos unfold across screens. He knew this moment would come. He had trained not just to survive the test, but to shape history. His calm face showed no pride, only focus. He wasn't a hero, was a warning. A message that humanity had returned not for revenge, but for balance. Yet he also knew that not everyone would accept that message. Somewhere out there, war was already being prepared. On the icy world of Dreeth, the Varn High Commanders started building weapons again. Their warrior had been defeated without being killed, something unheard of in Varn culture. To them, it was an insult. Their pride demanded a response. In the shadows of the political system, the old alliances began to shake. Treaties once signed under the belief that humans were extinct were now questioned. Entire star systems reviewed their military protocols. Espionage increased. Drones were sent toward the solar system, only to vanish mysteriously before reaching the asteroid belt. Whispers grew louder. Rumors claimed that Earth had weapons that could destroy entire fleets without firing a shot. Others believed humans had allied with ancient eye races hidden beyond the dark sectors. Fear spread faster than facts. On the neutral moon of Jura, where all species could send delegates, a meeting was held to discuss the human question. Representatives from over 50 species attended, all arguing what to do next. Some demanded open communication with Earth. Others called for sanctions or even a preemptive strike. The debate grew heated until the lights dimmed, and a single human hologram appeared before them. Elias. He didn't threaten. He didn't beg. He simply said, "We are not here to lead you. But we are no longer willing to be ignored. Choose your path carefully, because we will not be divided, and we will not be broken again." The message ended, leaving silence behind. That night, stars across the galaxy seemed colder. Some felt hope, others felt fear. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity was no longer forgotten. They were rising, not as conquerors, but as something far more dangerous, as survivors with purpose.